Ford, Maserati,
ESV, brown leather. King James Version, black cover, journaling Bible.
No way!
Hello and welcome to Kingdom of Context. I'm Sean. I want to thank you for joining us here tonight as we do a debate review on a recent debate I had about the shape of the earth. I debated Will Duffy from the Final Experiment channel, as well as the effort, the new concept of the Final Experiment trying to create its own community in order to promote the heliocentric globe model and debunk the biblical cosmological firmament enclosed circle of earth model. It was an interesting debate. We're going to review it. This will be probably a part one. It's a lengthy debate and there's a lot of commentary here. So buckle up. We're going to have a fun time doing this. I want to say hello and thank you to everyone that's in the live chat. Guys, if you like what we're doing, there's a ton of ways that you can support us. Okay. We have our Patreon and other links at the bottom if you want to support us in those ways. With our YouTube membership and our Patreon memberships, you get extra content. You get access to that. You can also go to bravetees.com, and that's an easy way to support us as well. bravetees.com. So let me show you what that looks like. And this is my own tea company that I created, and it's actually loose leaf organic tea. Let's see if I can get this to go here. That's not working. There it is. So you go to bravetees.com and you can pick up your own organic loose leaf tea. We have two different flavors right now. We have the Tree of Life and the Sabbath Rest. And if you like a good chamomile flavor, that's the Sabbath Rest. If you like something that's more of a Damiana and Holy Basil, that's the Tree of Life. And the wonderful health benefits associated with organic loose leaf hot tea. We just add a tad a bit of organic honey to sweeten it. Or you can do it as you like. But it's just amazing. I've been drinking this for 2 years now. It's helped me with a variety of different health issues. And the Brave tea is actually something that I drink when I want more mental acuity, right? It actually gives me a little like mental pep, right? It's just an effect of the holy basil, right? Makes you more aware. It's good for studying, for reading, and gives you a sense of mental energy, if you will. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. That's just one way. Like I said, if you want extra content, you can just become a member here at YouTube or on Patreon. We actually prefer Patreon because they actually take less of a cut, as well as they have more features. So like in the future, we may just start going live once a week on Patreon. You don't have to be a member, but you don't have to pay for it. You'll still have access to it for free. But because Patreon is actually allowing live streams now, and they even have their own live chat and everything. So we'll maybe experimenting with some different things because we're pretty locked in on a suppressive algorithm over here on YouTube. So we'll see what happens. But this is just some easy ways to, if you like what we're doing, that you can support us. Also, go check out daysofnoah.com, daysofnoah.com. And this is where you can also check out Days of Noah, the YouTube channel. And we're trying to put together our first ever biblical animation about the days of Noah. And it's amazing, guys. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen it or not, but it's amazing. We're having a great time. Drew of Green Pond Creative has been doing a lot of the animations for us with the second episode, as well as a lot of the artwork. And I think you guys are going to absolutely love it. So I'll just show you a quick teaser, and then we'll jump into the debate review. So go subscribe to Days of Noah channel here on YouTube. It's Days of Noah TV channel. And we're about to release the first 2 episodes coming up pretty soon, and I don't want you to miss them. Days of Noah, guys. daysofnoah.com and Days of Noah TV, the YouTube channel, both on Rumble and YouTube. Go check us out. Be a supporter of it. If you want to support the series as well, it's just, they have their own Patreon for it, and that way you can help be a part of making that a reality, because it's completely funded and completely made possible by the viewer, by people that want to see Christian content like that, especially for their children. So it's been an ongoing project. It's been amazing, but it's been a big project. So we appreciate you guys supporting that and helping out. Also, let's jump into this debate review with Will Duffy on the shape of the earth. I think this is an important topic that a lot of people need to know about. Let me do some adjustments real quick. One second. There we go. Okay. All right. So it was a long debate. It's over 3 hours. I'm going to try to make some of the commentary limited on Will's opening statements, because he makes a lot of just a lot of rhetoric. So in a debate, something that you have to be mindful of is the rhetoric. It's not always them presenting a valid point. Sometimes it's just a lot of poisoning the well, which is them trying to diminish or marginalize their interlocutor, their debate opponent. And that's what I feel like he did a lot of during his opening, which was he spent more than half of his time just trying to mischaracterize, put me into a lump with other people that may have spoken on the topic of a flat earth, not biblical cosmology. And that's where just a lot of bad mischaracterization, about a lot of false claims about what I believe, and lumping me in with other people. So, and just the rhetoric of, you'll see. We'll go through it as we go, but let's get going here.
If you're not familiar with it, you will be after tonight. I'm coming to you guys from Colorado, and really looking forward to this.
Awesome. Appreciate that, Will. For those in the audience that enjoy what they're hearing from Will Duffy here, do check the description box where I have a link to his YouTube channel where you can go over there and subscribe. Sean Griffin from Kingdom in Context, it's great to have you as well. I appreciate the time that you've offered for tonight's debate. A lot of people really looking forward to this one, and that includes myself. And Sean, tell us, how are you doing tonight? And also tell us a little bit about your channel, Kingdom.
All right, we're going to skip forward a little bit. Donnie, I'm doing well. Time.
Ready to start your presentation.
There we go.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead.
Flat Earth is officially finished. I created the final experiment, TFE, to once and for all settle this debate over the shape of the Earth. I came up with TFE in November of 2023 after hearing so many flat earthers say there was no 24-hour sun in Antarctica, and if there was a 24-hour sun, that would prove the globe and be impossible on a flat Earth. Shortly thereafter, I was invited to watch a debate between two pastors.
So that's the first mischaracterization, which I actually spoke with him about online. He just denies it. I did a whole show with Joseph Hanvey a couple months ago, showing the timestamps for when he interviewed Joseph Hanvey. It's his first live video on the Final Experiment channel. He interviewed Joseph Hanvey back in September to show that Joseph Hanvey was telling him, "Oh no, we can model a 24-hour sun on the outer edges of a firmament, which would be Antarctica, from a flat top-down view. We can model a 24-hour sun there. Yeah, that could work." And he was practicing modeling it, and he did believe that they were going to see that when they got there. So that is the continued false narrative that he continues to press with this whole topic, which is that, people in the flat earth biblical cosmological camp, they said this is never possible. So the moment that we do this final experiment and we observe a 24-hour sun during the summertime in Antarctica, then suddenly that must mean all their claims are fake, right? So he's not admitting that someone from the biblical cosmology flat earth camp did say, "Oh yeah, we can model this. It's probably possible. I'm guessing you will see one." So And this is someone that he actually engaged with multiple times in his channel, trying to marginalize and demonize the modeling of it, which Joseph Hamby modeled it. He had him on to talk about it, and then ended up attacking Joseph personally with fallacious claims about some rando thing from 20 years ago from someone he knew in middle school. Just completely derailed the whole thing, where Joseph ended up having to just leave unceremoniously because it was just a pure slander attack fest, and not actually focusing on what he had shown, which was, hey, your whole premise for this final experiment is wrong. The whole premise is wrong. You're claiming that this is impossible, that all flat earthers are saying it's impossible, and all biblical cosmologists say that this is impossible, and we saw it happen, so therefore all of you are wrong. But that's not true. They didn't all say it's impossible. They disagreed with one another. Some of them said it was possible. I was in the camp thinking it wasn't going to happen. I was proven wrong. So what? Other people who are modeling with a firmament prove that it can be an optical effect that you can see as a 24-hour sun. And as I'm going to show in my presentation, it actually matches their observation better than a globe model. That's the unique thing, that they're doubling down on the denial that not only is it possible to model it on a firmament, but it's actually the effect of how it looks on a firmament is what they recorded of the 24-hour sun in Antarctica. It's amazing. So a lot of doubling down, continuing to push a false narrative and a false premise that they disprove something that all the other people on the other side of the argument held synonymously, but that's not true. They didn't hold it synonymously.
Over the shape of the earth. The debate was between Greg Locke and Dean Odell and took place on December 2nd, 2023, near Nashville, Tennessee. I decided to attend this debate in person as I had already begun creating the final experiment in order to settle this debate for good. To my complete shock, the flat earth pastor, Dean Odell, said from the stage near the beginning of the debate that this whole disagreement could be settled by going to Antarctica and seeing if there was a 24-hour sun or not.
This would be easy to prove, but they hide this from us too. All we'd have to prove is go to Antarctica. Let me and you go to Antarctica, spend a week there in the summer, and let's see if the sun does a 360-degree circle all the way around us. If so, it's a ball.
This was my confirmation that my idea for
Boy, I grew all my hair back pretty quickly, didn't I? Did you see me sitting up there on stage as that bald guy saying that? I lost about 4 inches in height, and I grew all my hair back in just miraculously. Isn't that amazing? I'm not only a member of Hair Club for Men, but I'm also the president. Right? Was that me on stage making that statement? No, it wasn't. It was somebody else. That wasn't me at all. I didn't think it was going to happen, but I never made the claim that if it does happen, it disproves the biblical narrative. I never made that claim. So it's just, he's already strawmanning me. He's already using someone else's arguments as if they're mine, as opposed to the hundreds of videos that we've put up where we talk about biblical cosmology. He could have referenced any of those things that I've actually said, my actual own words, and used those in the debate. But the majority of it, he's using other people's words to misframe my position.
TFE was indeed final, hearing from yet another flat earther himself that going to Antarctica and seeing if there was a 24-hour sun would end this debate. The final experiment was just that, final in every way. There is no flat earth map or model that can account for the observations and experiments we conducted on our trip to Antarctica and to the
False, because I actually show it here in a few minutes. There is a model that accounts for the observation that they made in Antarctica.
tip of South America. As it turned out, the 24-hour sun was just the tip of the iceberg, pun intended. So many other observations and experiments confirmed the globe, and these are all impossible on a flat earth. If no flat earther, including my opponent Sean, can provide a working map or model that can account for all of these, then the debate is over. Full stop. As we go go through these.
I'll let that go. I addressed that in my opening. It's just another false framing. He's trying to say if they can't account for all of the points he's bringing up, then the biblical cosmology, the flat Earth is over. But it's so selective, man. It's called a Texas sharpshooter fallacy, where he's basically imagine taking a shotgun that sprays buckshot, right, in a big wide pattern of spray, and spraying the side of a barn door, and then walking up to that with a marker and finding 3 little holes next to each other out of the dozens and dozens of holes. You find 3 little holes next to it, and you draw a circle around it, and you go, look, I got 3 inside the circle. That's called a Texas sharpshooter fallacy. And what he's doing is he's ignoring all the other evidence that would debunk not only his own model, but that can be accounted for with the observations he saw, in order to try to say, we alone have these observations. We alone did this little thing here. And as a result of it, nobody else can answer this. Nobody can account for this. And therefore we win. It's just all of its bravado and rhetoric. This is just a stance that he's trying to put forward for the sake of trying to win a debate. It's not actually intellectually honest to the science, to the opponent's claims. It's just bravado.
Observations one by one and the results of our experiments, I want you to keep something very important in mind. Every single flat Earth claim was wrong. Every single flat Earth prediction was demonstrably false. Every single one.
Now, what's funny about this rhetoric is that he claims that every single flat Earth and biblical cosmological prediction was false. That's not true. Like I just said, someone did say that Joseph Hamby did predict, and he's on film talking to Will, predicting, yeah, I think you actually will see. The more I've been thinking about this and studying it and trying to model it, I think you will see a 24-hour sun down there. I think it's possible. And furthermore, they then go on to say later that the flat Earth biblical cosmological community doesn't have any predictions, that only the globe has predictions. But yet now he's claiming that they do have predictions and they were all false. So which is it? This is all rhetoric. That's all it is.
This is not some crazy coincidence. It's because we do not live on a flat Earth. Because we live on a globe, every single time a flat earther makes a prediction or claim that contradicts the globe, it will fail. I don't have time to cover all of the demonstrably false claims from flat earthers prior to TFE, but I will highlight some of the bigger ones now. First, flat earthers said for years that you could not go to Antarctica.
Now, he's going to find some cherry pick passages here or cherry pick statements from other people. I think it's either Eric Dubay or somebody else, but that's another false framing, because there's not a unanimous agreement on all topics within the anti-heliocentric model community. Within people that believe in a flat earth or biblical cosmology, which those two groups of people do not agree with a heliocentric Big Bang shaped, spherical earth cosmology. And within the community that doesn't agree with all that, they're not unanimously agreed on every topic. And a long time ago, there was some people saying, well, you can't go to Antarctica, and that's all they would say. But people have clarified over time to say, well, because of the Antarctic Treaty, you can't freely and independently explore the bounds of Antarctica, and you can't freely and independently sail past the 60th South Parallel, because it's enforced by the multitude of armies associated with the Antarctic Treaty. And they don't let you actually, there's been multiple YouTubers that have shown video of people trying to go past the 60 South Parallel, and they're met by warships. And it's just a concept. That's why you have to take an approved tour with one of the touring companies to go down to Antarctica, because that's all been approved by the governments for the Antarctic Treaty. You cannot just freely go and independently explore. The average person can't just charter a ship and go to any of the coastline they choose of Antarctica and dock and get out some ATVs and get out some camping materials and some supplies and some sleds. It's for a long-term expedition. You cannot do that. You cannot freely and independently explore. So this is where, for him to make these statements and to act like this is the truth, that all FE and biblical cosmologists think that you can't go to Antarctica, it's just another false framing. It's not a good faith debate claim.
Okay. Now you have some problems. First off, we're not even allowed to go there because of the longest standing treaty in mankind, the Antarctic Treaty. We're not allowed below the 60th. I think it's the 60th, might be the 66th parallel south, but you're not allowed to go there.
I don't even know what video he pulled this from. I don't know that YouTuber, but I would love to hear the rest of his statements because we've done an entire show on Uncommon Ground about the Antarctic Treaty. We've talked about the Antarctic Treaty in great depth. We read all the bullet points from it. We talked about the nations that are involved with it. We talked about the details of what you could possibly take with you and what you're responsible. If they even approved you after a year-long process that cost millions of dollars, if they actually approved you to even get to one of the coastlines and start to try to walk in any direction, then the amount of regulations involved, you couldn't live. You can't take fuel. You can't take fire material. You can't leave anything behind. You got to even bag your poop and bring it back with you. You can't do anything that would actually allow you to set up a base of operation to freely and independently explore what they call the continent of Antarctica, which is why all the naval and military bases that are there are owned by governments. They have all the equipment and the housing and the resources and the generators and the supplies and the trucks. But the average person can't do that. That's all he's trying to say. And so it's just a false framing of this narrative.
Also say things like you can only go to the coast of Antarctica or you could only go to the Antarctic Peninsula. All of this was false. When I created the final experiment and started researching how to get to Antarctica and where you could go, I was overwhelmed by how many tour companies take people to Antarctica every year. I had to make a spreadsheet to try and keep track of it all. Next, flat earthers said there was not a 24-hour sun in Antarctica.
Not all of them.
There is, in fact, never 24-hour sunlight anywhere in Antarctica, because even when the sun reaches its outermost circuit over the Tropic of Capricorn, the entirety of the Antarctic circumference cannot be reached by its light at any one time, and so it will still set every day.
Prior to TFE, most flat earthers subscribed to Gleason's map of the world with a circling sun above it. This would make a 24-hour sun in Antarctica impossible. In fact, in the lower right corner of Gleason's map, it says there is no sunlight at all in Antarctica beyond 80 degrees south. My opponent, Sean, also doubled down on there not being a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. First, last June, Sean had me on his channel to discuss TFE. Now, we need to take a quick tangent here. Notice Description, Sean says, I am joining him to discuss my public challenge to biblical cosmology. This is manipulative and disingenuous. Flat earthers, including my opponent, use this term biblical cosmology as if it's synonymous with a flat earth. Nothing could be further from the truth. I hold to biblical cosmology, as does Donnie, who is hosting this debate, but we have disagreements with Sean's position on.
So this is something that's never happened before in a debate. Did you hear what he said? He said, "I hold to whatever his heliocentric belief, the globe. He believes in the globe." He says also the moderator Donnie, who's hosting this debate, he agrees with me, and you're like, bro, you don't appeal to the moderator as someone that's on your side in your debate arguments during a debate. Like, Donnie didn't ask him to do that. That's just oh, look, I've got even the person hosting this doesn't agree with him, right? It's just another way to try to marginalize and make your interlocutor look silly. Unfortunately, there were some moments where Donnie encouraged him in that behavior. And so I just want to let everyone know afterwards, Donnie talked to me about that, and he apologized because he felt like he said some things that came across unprofessional, and he apologized to me personally. And so I accepted his apology, and we'll see what happens going forward. But yeah, it was an interesting time.
Biblical cosmology. People disagree with each other. That's a fact of life. And in the world of theology and biblical matters, it's no different. Disagreements and different interpretations abound. If someone calls their own personal view biblical theology, despite the fact that many people disagree, you can see how disingenuous that is. And even worse.
You see that? So now he's saying, because I hold the view of biblical cosmology and it's not the same exact specifics as someone else who also holds to biblical cosmology, then I'm being disingenuous. That's what he's claiming. So more poisoning the well. These are debate tactics. This is a concentrated time of him trying to just set the stage to say that Sean is a liar. He's disingenuous. No one should listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He was proven wrong. That's all this is. It's called rhetoric and bravado. It's just debate tactics. He brought very little substantial concepts to his opening arguments. It's just a lot of this stuff.
Imagine inviting someone for a discussion specifically on theological disagreements and putting in the description ahead of time that they are coming to discuss their public challenge to biblical theology. People disagree on theology. People disagree on cosmology, and they all believe that their position is biblical. So anytime during this discussion, when Sean uses the term biblical cosmology, remember that he has redefined that term as synonymous with a flat earth, but it's not. All the varying views on cosmology among those who believe the Bible is true.
So the term biblical cosmology was made popular around 2015 by Rob Skiba, specifically in reference to a firmament enclosed earth. That's what made it become widely used on social media. Because he started looking into it very publicly and became a flat earther as a result of realizing the Bible describes a firmament enclosed reality. He went out and did his own test. He did a altitude balloon test. He did a curvature test. He started to realize that some of the claims of the globe are not true and that the Bible says it describes a very different model. And so that's where that term became extremely popular in the last 10 years. If there was a geocentric young earth creationist, intelligent design adherent that wanted to use that term before then, I never heard it. It doesn't matter. It's all semantics. He's just playing semantics right now. This is just poisoning the well kind of concept. Also, real quick, someone in live chat, The Last Trump, is asking, why does he talk like that? Talking about Will Duffy. Seems so desperate to get people to believe what he's saying. I think that the tone, the cadence and the tone that he's using is kind of like it's trying to sound affirmative. But it's also like in pastoral tone, right? It's almost as if you're at the pulpit, you're trying to get emphasize a point across, but you don't want to talk too fast because you don't want to lose people. So it's like a prepared type of practiced speech that you would do, a type of persuasive speech that pastors may use, because he does claim to be a pastor at a church in Denver.
Can all be described as biblical cosmological views. Going back to Sean's position that there was not a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, a few days after having me on his channel, Sean posted this video to his channel. You'll notice it's titled Multiple Testimonies Against 24-Hour Southern Summer Sun in Antarctica, and he was furthering his case that there is not a 24-hour sun.
Now, specifically, those videos were from February to March time period, which is at the tail end of the summer in Antarctica. So I couldn't find any that were in the dates of December to which they went down and did the TFE. I couldn't find any legitimate videos or ones that even looked legitimate for a full 24-hour sun in frame spinning over your head type of video. Neither could a lot of other people researching this for a very long time. So they couldn't find one that looked legitimate, didn't look like it was edited and cut. And so, yeah, at the time, I didn't think it was possible. I thought they're either just saying it is and it doesn't truly happen because they're keeping with the narrative of the globe lie, or the people that are highlighted in this specific video he's referencing here, they're not in December. They're at the later end of February through March. And so they were seeing the sun low on the horizon to only rise for 3 or 4 hours out of the day. And I think some of them were in a very different spot. Some of them were at McMurdo Sound and others were on a cruise type thing. So it was a very different location than being at the South Pole Station, which is the Edmondson Scott base, or being even as far as Union Glacier was. So it's a very different location. It was more north toward the coastline. So I actually thanked Will Duffy during this debate for going deeper south to get the footage to definitively show there's a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. Oh, and lo and behold, you can actually model it on a firmament. So big things happened in 2024. We got someone that was trying to disprove the firmament model ends up showing more evidence that only works on the firmament model. It was a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. It reminds me of, Genesis, when Joseph was like, what you intended for evil, God used for good. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, the way Father works stuff out like that.
And then a few days later, Sean had MC Toon on his channel, and both TFE and the 24-hour sun were, of course, brought up. And Sean told MC Toon that the globe side has no video evidence of a 24-hour circling sun in Antarctica.
So you have quote unquote. So Black Sabbath, this may be the only time I respond to you, because I clearly see that your comments in the live chat are full of venom, full of misrepresentation, regardless of what anyone's saying. But for anyone that might be listening but be interested, there is a marathon that does go on in Union Station. I was unaware of Union Glacier Station or whatever it's called, and I was unaware that they did marathons there, right? Even though I tried to look up a 24-hour sun. Now, what's interesting though is the people that run the marathons there, a marathon is achieved in 5 to 6 hours if you're a decent marathon runner. Apparently, it takes them a little bit longer because of the conditions and the altitude and everything else involved, in the extreme cold and everything. But they're not doing what Will did when he went down there. The people that have been in a marathon down there, even if they were running it in December when there's 24 hours of sunlight out, they weren't filming the sun rotate above their head. They were running a marathon. So the footage from those races is short, limited, full of edits and cuts, and it's focusing on the runners. It's not pointing at the sun for 24 hours. That's the last time I'm going to engage with you based on your comments in this live chat. So you're welcome to be here, be respectful, participate. If you get slanderous, accusatorial, or filled with profanity, we will block you, okay?
Testimony with no video evidence. We have testimony.
Oh,
and
I have video evidence.
No, you don't. You've got edited film. You do not have a 24-hour video evidence of the Antarctic summer sun circling above someone's head for 24 hours. The body of the sun.
Now, this was completely false, and so MC Toon brought up a video of the 24-hour sun in Antarctica, and Sean argued against it with some incredibly weak arguments, as you will see here.
Well, of course, more bravado and rhetoric. He produces I think it was Anthony Powell video that he produces, either that or Robert Schwartz. I can't remember. And it's a video from Vimeo, which I even forgot Vimeo even existed. So I guess kudos to Vimeo for staying in business all this time. I don't even know how they did that. I don't know anyone that uses Vimeo or what's going on over there, but since MC Toon showed this video here, I went and looked up this guy's channel and saw that this video was on his channel. I was like, okay, that's interesting. My question still remains though, which is what I asked him, which is, this is a time lapse, which is not a continuous video. And they'll say, well, time lapse is a video. Don't you know what a video is? Like, yes, of course. But the point is, in the time lapse, it's a 5-day time lapse. You don't see anyone coming out to change the battery. Now, this is an interesting point because they will readily tell you on any documentary that you watch about Antarctica that if you have a camera with a lithium ion type battery that's out in that extreme cold, it loses like 80% efficiency of its battery life. So all I was asking was, well, where in this spliced time lapse that you're showing me here is the guy coming out to change the battery? Otherwise, you know that there's lots of cuts. If there's no one to come out and change the battery in this thing, okay, is there an extension cord that runs out to it? I didn't see it in the video either. Even when I went to the guy's channel and tried to watch it much slower and detailed, I was like, well, I don't see an extension cord coming out to power this thing up either. So that means the type of time lapsing that it must be showing me, it's not the pictures that are taken in the time lapse are not very close together. For one, it means they're spread out over pretty decent time periods, because that means he had time to come out and change the battery fairly often. I would imagine you have to change it at least once a day, if not more. So that's all I was asking him was, look, this is not a continuous video. If it is a time lapse, a bunch of pictures being melded into a time lapse, that's fine. But how did this guy keep the camera unfrozen and powered up properly? There's another YouTuber I was watching like last week, and he went down there to try to get a long exposure photography or something while he was in Antarctica, and his camera froze over. Just the general moisture. It didn't even storm. It was just the general moisture that was out there that he didn't have his camera covered and protected enough, and so it froze over by the morning time, right? So that's all I was asking. It was like, where's the maintenance to the camera to make sure this thing's staying in operation to do this time lapse that you've melded together and makes it look like a video, but it's just a series of pictures. But of course, all questions are dumb questions if you're questioning the narrative. Apparently, for my opponent Will, anytime anyone questions the official narrative, and of course wants to use the Bible as a valid testimony of reality, then apparently it's a dumb question.
Okay. So who's Robert Schwartz?
Robert Schwartz. Schwartz spent time at the South Pole. This is
How do you know Robert Schwartz?
how do you know the guys in the video that you did? You don't know them either. So
No, I don't.
We're
but
at the same
They actually
planet
have a timestamp. They have dates. They have coordinates. You have a random video that's moving in circles where I can already see cuts in the clouds because it's moving at high speed. So I'm just saying to you,
standard flat Earth denial.
how do you know Robert Schwartz?
This is 5 days.
Watch
5 days.
it go.
Yep. This destroys flat Earth. You asked why hasn't it been blasted around? I don't know why.
Here's the first critical question.
It's been there for 7 years, Sean.
Michael, here's the first critical question. Can you slow down? Slow down for a minute.
It contradicts your idiot idea of
Slow
the
down.
flat Earth and your belief that the Earth.
To me, the fact that Will Duffy played this piece of the clip from this video where I had to mute Michael Toon for his ridiculous ranting, starting to call me an idiot, starting to say I'm a liar and all this stuff, which is what he does in his channel. That's how he gets subs and super chats. He just rails and goes off and rails against people that disagree with him. And that's the fact that Will showed this part and thought that this was something good to show during a debate. To me, like, that just goes to show Will's discretion, his personal judgment about calling MC Toon his friend and aligning with him. MC Toon acting like a wholehearted unbeliever on his channel all the time. And for a pastor to like lock arms with him and say, let's take this on together and you're a friend of mine, yet not and think that this is okay behavior for someone, like, that, to me, that just shows me Will Duffy is not the kind of character of person that I would ever call my pastor. or want to be my pastor. Best way to put it, I suppose.
Earth is flat and that the
Okay, I'm just gonna have to mute you since you can't control yourself. I'm looking at this video that you put up here. Okay. Where you said it's 5 days uninterrupted. Shake your head, yes or no. Where's the guy coming out to change the battery?
Hey, one way, if you can get Robert Sungenis to actually talk with me, I've tried to set this up with Donnie at Stand for Truth for like a year and a half, and he keeps saying that he doesn't have. I think the last thing he said was he was tired of talking about it and he was going to do something else. But then a few months later, he ends up doing another shape of the earth, geocentrism, heliocentrism type of debate. But hey, brother, if you can get this set up, I'm willing to talk with Sungenis. But we'll see. We'll see.
What kind of battery can go for 5 days uninterrupted? 120 hours? Where can you tell me where the video is where he's coming out to change this battery out of this camera? Do you know that the batteries lose 90% of their lifespan in sub-zero Antarctic?
Did you guys see how far away those buildings are? How long of an extension cord do you think you would have to have? Let's just say this building right here. What do you guys think? 100-foot, 200-foot extension cord, probably? Put a couple of them together. You could do it. You would just need a really long one. And I try to analyze this video. I just didn't see any cords coming out to the camera. I didn't see the guy coming out to the camera to change it. So, yeah, I feel like they're valid questions. Like, can you at least account for like how did he? Because I looked at the video that he's watching on Vimeo here, and nothing in the description explains how he kept the camera warmer, or he kept the batteries fully charged and powered over 5 days, right? So, yeah, people can call them dumb questions all they want, but those are the questions I had.
Slow down.
flat Earth and your belief that the Earth is flat and that the
Okay, I'm just gonna have to mute you since you can't control yourself. I'm looking at this video that you put up here. Okay. Where you said it's 5 days uninterrupted. Shake your head, yes or no. Where's the guy coming out to change the battery? What kind of battery can go for 5 days uninterrupted? 120 hours?
Isn't it interesting here that Duffy's showing this clip and allowing it to just play uninterrupted for 3 or 4 minutes, but yet he doesn't have an excuse or an answer for how this video got filmed either. He just thinks McToon making fun of me is good enough. That's the level of rebuttal that you're dealing with from people involved in the final experiment. They're not actually addressing the claims I put forward, as you'll see later in the debate, my opening statements. They're not actually going to address any of the things I've say. It's just more mockery, demonization. We'll ignore you and then try to say you're stupid for just asking questions or even having a different opinion.
Where can you tell me where the video is where he's coming out to change this battery out of this camera? Do you know that the batteries lose 90% of their lifespan in sub-zero Antarctic weather? So all you got is a simple video.
All right.
You don't know who Robert
ready
Schwartz
for the
is.
answers? Are you going to pretend to let me answer now?
No, I'm asking you genuine questions. Can you control yourself and talk normal now?
Yeah, it's a time lapse. You don't know how time lapses work?
So it's not a complete video.
It's
So I think it was because of this conversation that when they went on the final experiment, they tried to get full uninterrupted 24-hour videos, but maybe not.
a series of photographs, Sean. That's what video.
It's not a complete video.
Sean, a video.
Oh, all right,
is
brother.
A series of
You-
photographs.
This is very disappointing.
Yeah, on the level narrow road, that's the point of why I'm asking that, is that it's not a continuous video. It's assumed that it's a bunch of pictures that are put together in post, and therefore you're not going to see the moments where the guy comes out to change the battery. You're not going to see the moments where the camera dies or the low battery starts flashing on the screen. You're never going to see that stuff because it's just a series of pictures that has been manufactured into one continuous loop but the clouds reveal that it's not a continuous loop. There's major shifts in edits where the clouds just disappear and a whole nother section and shape of clouds appear in an instant, because they're not flowing through as a continuous video. So that's kind of the whole point.
Not knowing the person who filmed the 24-hour sun is not a valid argument against the evidence. Saying you can't see the person changing the battery is not a valid argument against the evidence, especially when the person filming would be careful to not step in front of the camera. And saying it is a time lapse and not a complete video is not a valid argument against the evidence either. And then in November, just a month before we went to Antarctica, Sean was doing a live stream and someone asked him what his confidence level was that there was not a 24-hour sun. Hear his answer.
Meant to be that way.
Someone in the live chat's asking, Hunter's asking, what's my confidence level of a 24-hour sun?
Data, like you said, data's king.
And it depends on if they're actually taking them to the spot they claim they're taking them to. If they are, and then it's definitely not going to be a 24-hour sun. If they're actually taking them to that specific spot,
You just nailed it. You
then
need as much information.
you would not have, because the descriptions of Enoch and the creation model, you would not have a 24-hour sun.
So this was a video that was filmed before I found Will Duffy. I found Joseph Hamvey modeling on a firmament a 24-hour sun and how it works with the reflective optics on the exterior edges of the dome. I didn't even realize it was possible. So yeah, I thought they're not going to see something like that. Probably not, because I don't see anything described like that in Scripture. What we do see described in Scripture is a hemispheric circle of firmament that encloses the waters of the earth and the land of the earth, with the sun rotating above it as it moves up and down in its 6 gates over the course of the year, up and down over the dome, which on a top-down projection, it would be from the Tropic of Cancer out the equator and then out to Capricorn over the course of the year. And so therefore, when it makes those movements, as Joseph Hamby models, it shows that there is a reflective 24-hour sun that happens at the exterior edges of the firmament. I didn't even know it was possible in this video that he's showing up here. So I didn't think it would work. I didn't know I didn't know it could be done. When I saw it could be done, I was just like, that is amazing. Who would have guessed that a firmament described by the scriptures is actually demonstrated to be what they saw in Antarctica? What are the chances of that statistically? I didn't know that was even the way that light, the optics of light works in a reflective manner off of a dome structure. Isn't that amazing? I mean, this should be like, this is why I had Joseph Hamm on my channel and told people to go check out his channel. Look what he's doing over there. Like, he's actually showing this very specific and unique phenomena is modeled on a firmament. And that is like the most mind-blowing revelatory information that adds validity to the scriptures, that people and Christians everywhere should be going, holy moly, look at this. They documented the 24-hour sun in Antarctica, and you can model it on a firmament. And the way it shows up in their videos in the sky is the way it shows up in the modeling of the firmament. And that's your very specific way that it happens, that it only models that specific way that the sun takes a unique shape change in its 24-hour circuit as it's rotating on the exterior of the dome in this reflective manner. You see that in their filming when they went down there to Union Glacier. So it's like, no one ever expected that to be. It's like an amazing concept that people are just not talking about because they're so busy worried about, oh man, so you're saying that people in the government lie to you, and that NASA, who's a government agency, lies to you, and that SpaceX would lie to you, and Blue Origin would lie to you. And yes, people will lie to you to steal your tax money. They will lie to you. Yes. Anyone that doesn't understand that people can lie to steal power and money from you, they're mentally still in diapers. They haven't joined society yet. They haven't joined history yet to realize that people will lie to you to steal power and money from you. So yeah, it's a very incredible phenomenon that was proven scripture to be true in 2024 based on the final experiment. Thank you, Will Duffy, for putting that trip together.
So Sean joined the rest of the flat earth community in communicating a very strong confidence that there would not be a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. Now, to be fair to Sean, he did seem to change his mind after our trip and after we live streamed the midnight sun and also video recorded the 24-hour sun.
So what Duffy's not explaining is that I changed my opinion after I interviewed Joseph Hanvey and saw him model what they observed on a firmament model. He's not going to mention that because again, he's not trying to steel man me and my arguments and what I believe. He's trying to misframe me.
He seems to have latched on to Joe Hanvey's model, which Joe and Sean and others think reconciles a 24-hour sun in Antarctica with a flat.
It's not latching onto, and it's not I changed my mind after your observation. It's because it can be modeled. But Joseph Hanvey actually shown it can be modeled. What you saw is modeled on a firmament model is why I decided, okay, I didn't doubt the final experiment. I know that other people did. They thought it was fake, that it was staged. I never doubted that. I believed Austin and Jaron's testimony. I've spoken with them behind the scenes. I've spoken with them in interviews over the years. I mean, I don't think they view me as a friend, but at least they view me as an acquaintance. And I believe their testimony of what they saw when they went down there, as well as the girl Elizabeth. So I didn't doubt the trip or what they saw and anything. My thoughts and my understanding, my belief that it was even possible changed because I saw it modeled on a firmament, actually.
At Earth. It doesn't. And I'm actually excited for Sean to bring up Joe Hanvey's model because it's very easy to refute. But we will get to that later in the debate. Some people argue that a single data point, such as the existence of a 24-hour sun in the south in Antarctica, is not enough to falsify flat Earth and prove the globe. They argue that you need a preponderance of evidence to show which side is actually correct. Fortunately, TFE ended up being about much more than just the 24-hour sun. As you are about to see, every globe prediction was correct and every flat Earth claim was wrong. Shortly before we went to Antarctica, I released this video on the TFE channel. The one thing everyone completely forgot about. This video was about the moon. Leading up to our trip, everyone was talking about the sun, but on the globe, there is not just a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, there is also a 24-hour moon. And flat earthers had made it clear that they also denied the existence of the 24-hour moon.
Right? You know, there's a 24-hour moon in the north, but not a 24-hour moon in the south.
And my opponent also asked me about the 24-hour moon.
So this is where he's misframing. He's lumping me together with Dave, as opposed to saying my opponent did not say there wouldn't be a 24-hour moon. I just said, I don't think they'll see a 24-hour sun. I didn't even ask him, do you think there'll be a 24-hour moon? I asked him specifically, did he know about the moon? What is anyone looking at the moon? And do you know that the moon is not seen for a couple of days before the new moon phase? And of course, he's unfamiliar with that. If you want to go watch that part of the conversation, in fact, I'll probably clip that part of the conversation from my previous interview with him from last year and upload it as a new video soon, because it's it just shows you how little he understands even his own model. They didn't realize. I talk about it in my part of the debate here, but Will didn't even realize that the moon is not visible from anyone. So if you still believe you live on a globe, the moon should always be visible from anywhere on the earth, even when it's during its supposed phase of dark before the new moon phase, before the sliver shines upon the edges of it and it starts to grow in light again. You should, but no one can see it. They can't find it. They can't see it with telescopes. They can't see it anywhere. It's not visible because it's not there. And only the book of First Enoch explains that there's a hidden phase of the moon. And this is what Enoch was being shown as he was being, the sun, moon, and stars were being explained to him. And so that in itself is an absolute globe killer. The moon cannot just disappear out of heliocentric space for almost 2 days and no one can see it. You should be able to see it, but they can't. So this is something that people rarely talk about.
During our interview last June. why no flat earther has put forth a model where a 24-hour sun would work in Antarctica is because there isn't one.
Why are we just talking about the sun? What about the moon? Wouldn't there be a 24-hour moon also?
Yes, Sean, there is also a 24-hour moon. Multiple people have filmed the 24-hour moon in Antarctica. And we actually released the first ever video of a 24-hour moon taken in the winter in Antarctica, courtesy of Anthony Powell, who has spent many years in Antarctica. Up next is sunrise and sunset directions. Our journey to Antarctica took us through South America, specifically a town called Punta Arenas, which is at the very southern tip of Chile. What's significant about this is that we were south of the Tropic of Capricorn.
So I bring up in my rebuttal, I believe, that video of the 24-hour moon filmed in the wintertime. I was just asking him, like, what month of the winter was that filmed? Again, because I know that the luminaries can be modeled on a firmament, and there's a unique reflective concept that happens at the exterior edges of the firmament from an observer point who may go to the edges of the circle of Earth, where it closer to the firmament, you see a strange optical phenomenon with the luminaries. Now that I know that that's possible and can actually be modeled, and it doesn't even require any, it's like, it doesn't even require the level of specificity within the firmament model that I think exists according to scripture, even on a base layer single firmament enclosure, like Joseph Hamby's doing, it's even present. And so that, I think that's fascinating, that it works like that. And so I'm happy that that has come to light, and we're just finding more proofs to model what the Bible has claimed this whole time. And now I'm seeing that, okay, but what month would that be in? Because there's the moon is also seen in the winter, in the summertime, and at Union Glacier. And in fact, in my debate that we're going to see here, in the background of one of the pictures I show from the top of Mount Vincent, you can see the moon in the background, even though it's daytime. You see the daytime moon in the background. So it's just an interesting concept. And I would have been interesting to see if there was a 24-hour moon from their perspective, in the daytime, or any type of 24-hour moon. But probably not, I suppose. Like I would have to look at the trajectory of the moon inside the heliocentric model to see if they should have seen a 24-hour moon during the daytime as well. But instead, they only saw the 24-hour sun. So there's just a lot of unanswered questions there that people are still studying.
According to flat earthers, the sun should always be to the north of you if you are south of the Tropic of Capricorn. And one flat earther even told me before our trip that we would know if the earth was a globe or flat based on what the sun did while we were at the southern tip of Chile.
When you're in that place, regardless of whether you're on a globe or whether you're on a flat, you are going to be south of the Tropic of Capricorn. You're going to be south of the furthest zenith position that the sun makes. So you are going to have to look north to see the sun. And it would be real simple that as it traverses to the west, if it arcs in a west by northwesterly direction at all, you're not on a globe. If it arcs around, if it starts to track, you don't even have to see it for 24 hours. All you have to do is watch which way it tracks. If it goes west by northwest, you're gonna be on you're on a flat earth. If it's going past you in a west by southwest direction, in other words, angling off to this way, arcing around you, then you're definitely on a globe.
Again, sovereign soul, unchained mind, that gentleman is not me. So I didn't make that claim. That's just, more of lumping me in a generalization fallacy.
When we got to Punta Arenas, all eyes were on the sun. Both sides were curious. Would it set in a southerly direction as the globe predicted, or would it set in a northerly direction as a flat earth would require? And once again, the globe side was correct. The sun set from right to left toward the south. And the really cool thing was that you could see the movement of the sun through a very faint twilight throughout the night to the south until it rose again, still in a southerly direction. Up next is the South Celestial Pole. Flat earthers have denied a South Celestial Pole for years as they believe the stars in the
No, they haven't.
night sky all rotate around Polaris, the North Star.
In the southern outer hemisphere, people say that the stars rotate in the opposite direction. They make circles in the opposite direction, and that can only happen on a ball Earth. I have yet to see any real proof of this.
On a globe, you would have both a north and south celestial pole. And most importantly, on a globe, the stars in the south would rotate in the opposite direction that they do in the north and around a different point in the sky. And again, while at the southern tip of Chile, we were super curious to see the movement of the stars in the night sky. And once again, the globe side was correct. 3 of us, MC Toon, Dave McKeegan, and myself, all filmed the southern stars rotating clockwise around the south celestial pole. This, of course...
So, by the way, this also has been modeled by Joseph Hanvey with a firmament model. So go check out his channel if you haven't already. He shows all the sun, moon, and stars rotating as people see them in the southern hemiplane, just as people are claiming, and it's modeled with the way that the stars and sun and moon move above a firmament. It works. It's firmament optics.
Is the exact opposite of the counterclockwise movement of the stars around Polaris in the north. Here is an incredible video taken by Robert Schwartz of the South Celestial Pole while he was in Antarctica, and he actually took this at the geographic South Pole. Now, speaking of the South Pole, that is up next. A geographic South Pole is impossible on a flat Earth.
No, it's not. The word geographic is simply just a word that they're using for the placement of the Amundsen Scott base, which they call the geographic South Pole. It's a tourist destination people go to. Duffy actually makes a false claim about that later that I'm going to call out later for, and show that there is no testimony to what he claims. It like a wide discrepancy from what he claims compared to what the testimony of people that go down there regularly claim. So I don't even know where he's getting some of his claims. But the concept of the geographic South Pole is literally on the sign at the Amundsen Scott base that they call the tourist destination for the South Pole, which is this little, barbershop pole with a silver sphere on top of it that people like to take pictures with. They call that the geographic South Pole. Now, online, they'll tell you there are multiple South Poles depending on what you're calling the South Pole, whether it's magnetic, it's the celestial, the geographic. And the geographic has even changed over the last 100 or so years from different explorers. Currently, it's what they place at the Amundsen Scott base. So again, all of this already assumes that the globe is a real thing. And just because there's a southern destination of an Amundsen Scott base that they call a geographic South Pole, the whole thing is assuming you already believe in a globe. So this is why this argument is just begging the question.
And flat earthers do not shy away from this fact.
No one's at the South Pole because there is no South Pole.
Now, while we were in Antarctica for the final experiment, a friend of mine was actually at the South Pole. His name is John Santandrea. He works at the South Pole every year, and I asked him to take some pictures for me while he was there this past December. Now, if a geographic South Pole does not exist on a flat Earth, then where was my friend John? Well, flat Earthers...
He was just south of Chile in a landmass that they call Antarctica at the base that they call the geographic South Pole. Doesn't mean that the Earth is a sphere. in space.
Like to claim that since a geographic South Pole does not exist, that people who go to the South Pole are just dropped off at some random spot in Antarctica. Well, this is simply not true. People visit the South Pole for many reasons, but one of the main ones is to visit the Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station. This is an over 80,000 square foot building that has as many as 150 people working in it at a time. So one of the first questions I like to ask flat earthers who deny the geographic South Pole is this.
So no one doubts that there's a building down there. No one doubts that people go down there and work there. In fact, if you look at the video vlogs of people that actually work there on a regular basis, they'll tell you that the time it takes them to get there is not what you claim, Will. We'll be talking about that probably on part 2.
This. Where is the Amundsen-Scott station? Please show me on a flat earth map where this gigantic station is located. And flat earthers historically have failed to respond to this simple question. I will be asking Sean this question during our discussion. And I would like to suggest that if flat earthers do not know where the Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station is, they need to rethink their stance on flat earth. Even if you have not been to the Eiffel Tower, it's easy to show where it is on a map.
A location in the snow that people can fly to does not prove that the Earth is a sphere in a heliocentric space.
And if you wanted to travel there, it would be relatively easy for anyone to get there. The South Pole is no different. Anyone, and I mean anyone, this includes children, can show you on a globe where the South Pole is. And if people want to visit the South Pole, you can. But if we live on a flat Earth and no one can show where the Amundsen-Scott South Pole Station is on a flat Earth, then how is it that anyone can travel there? The answer is simple. We know where it is only on the globe because we live on a globe. And I predict no one, including my opponent, will be able to show where this is on a flat Earth map because we don't live on a flat Earth.
Yeah, I show them.
So once again, the globe was correct. There is a geographic South Pole. That brings us to my final point in this discussion, and that is Southern Hemisphere flights. Flat Earthers denied for years that nonstop Southern Hemisphere flights were real.
Another false framing. This is a poor steelman. Flat Earthers did not say they weren't real. Specific flights. They say specific flights cannot be, never actually happen. Specific ones, nonstop from Cape Town to, I don't know, pick a place. Nonstop from like Cape Town to New Zealand. Something like that. That they always have to go into above the equator, into the northern hemisphere on the globe, and then back down. Which on a top-down projection of the Earth, it makes much more sense that they're actually just going in a straight line across the equator from Cape Town to New Zealand, something like that. So, and you'll see according to many people that have tried to book these flights, that they'll book the flights and it'll say nonstop when you go to book it, but then it gets redirected later. Then suddenly it's not nonstop. It's, oh, we've got to actually go over here for whatever reason. We can't do this nonstop, and we're going to go over here and you're going to have a layover for 12 hours, or we'll be diverted and we'll go over here to refuel or something like that. So there's been a lot of shenanigans when it comes to people trying to research very specific nonstop flights in the Southern Hemisphere that should be easy according to distance on a globe, but ends up actually being very difficult to follow through with.
Some globe debaters will acknowledge this fact, but rebut with the claim that nonstop.
So this is Eric DeBay's voice. Again, I'm not Eric DeBay. It's just, use my arguments, bro. You're debating me. We had a whole filmed debate agreement. I filmed it on my channel. It's on my channel to watch. It happened 2 months before this debate. We filmed what I was going to be talking about and what he was going to be talking about. He had all that time to go research my stance and use clips about me. Instead, he's using clips from Seven Soul, from Dave Weiss, from Flat Earth and Coffee from Eric Dubay, just wasting time and trying to poison the well.
Sydney to Santiago flights follow a great circle route over the Pacific, remaining in the southern hemisphere the entire time, therefore increasing the necessary flight distance, speed, and duration. With regards to this claim, firstly, it has yet to be proven that these flights even exist, since no unedited video footage exists online, and every time flat earthers have attempted to book the nonstop flight, it fails to go through, gets canceled and refunded days before departure, or changes to a non-direct flight.
A nonstop Southern Hemisphere flight is an airplane flight that both departs and lands in the Southern Hemisphere without crossing the equator. The reason flat earthers denied these flights existed is because on a flat Earth, the South gets bigger and bigger the further you go past the equator. And so these flights would be physically impossible in the South on a flat Earth by the fact that the South is just too big for a flight to cover these distances in a relatively short amount of time and without refueling. Two very specific flight routes are tied to TFE, and they once again confirm the globe and falsify flat Earth. The first is the nonstop flight between Santiago, Chile, and Sydney, Australia. Critical Think, a YouTuber who joined us for the final experiment, lives in Australia and took this nonstop flight both on his way to Antarctica and on his way home after Antarctica.
This is such a weird argument because I watched that video that Critical Think uploaded of his flight going back home from Santiago, and it's nothing special. I mean, I took a 15-hour flight from LA to Hong Kong when I was younger. Like, that's, planes can do that. It's not a problem. But even on a top-down projection, I'll show you real quick. Even on a top-down projection, you're going to see it's not that crazy of a distance. Let me see if I can find one real quick. Unfortunately, they're all stretched out. But so, unfortunately, this, it's trying to find a top down that's not a Gleason's is very difficult because most of them online are just Gleason's maps. Let me see if Google has a better search result. No, it's still I don't care. It doesn't matter. The Gleason's map is not built for accurate distances. It's built for something else. It's built for time zones and things. So if I put this on screen, oh, hang on. I need to make this bigger. 1 second. Try to make this bigger. Oh, look at that. What do you know? Someone actually has this flight already on a, let me see if I can do this. All right, so going from South America, Santiago to Sydney, Australia, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. Now, I don't think that this is an accurate representation of the way the shapes of the continents and the size of the ocean. Actually, to my estimation, that New Zealand and Australia would be much further over to the left. It wouldn't be so directly opposite of directly opposite of South America. It would be much further over to the left. Almost if you drew a straight line out from the west coast of the United States out to the outer edge of the circle of the earth, that would be where Sydney would be, in my estimation. But again, cartography work hasn't been done to question the official narrative. And so because you can't freely and independently explore beyond the South 60th parallel, which is in the Southern Ocean. So this is why it's a problem. But the point is, that's not a problem. Taking that route from Santiago to Sydney, Australia is not a problem. It's a 5 hours from New Zealand to McMurdo Sound, which is over here on the left. That's only 5 hours. So again, these are not to scale. These are not accurate. These are just very crude projections from a top-down view, as if you're above the firmament looking down on the circle of the earth. They're not intended to be accurate. This is why I tell them in the debate, we don't have an accurate map. So that's one of the issues. We would love to be able to freely and independently explore the waters of the world and the other land masses that possibly are out there in order to do proper cartography. We'd love to do that, but we just haven't been able to do that.
This flight is impossible on a flat Earth. I'm looking forward to hearing Sean's explanation of this flight on a flat Earth map, because there is not a plane in existence that could fly the distance required on a flat Earth map, and that can fly fast enough to make such a distance in such a relatively short amount of time. The next flight route is flights to and from the South Pole. Flights that originate in South America, South Africa, and New Zealand fly to Antarctica multiple times per year, and then after switching aircraft, take people to the South Pole on ski planes. A ski plane lands on skis as opposed to wheels, as there is no runway at the South Pole. Here is a quick visual. Okay, that's not going to play, but that's fine. These flights are...
We've seen planes land on ice. It's not a big deal, bro. It's so funny. He tries to make much ado about things that are not that important or that big of a deal. The sun going around in a 24-hour observation in below Chile, that's a big deal. I'm glad that he brought that narrative and that discourse out in public, and people are looking at it, thinking about it, and trying to model it on a firmament, and lo and behold, it works on a firmament. That's amazing. That's awesome. But some of this other stuff that he tries to include to say, oh, we also proved this and this and that, it's just he's trying to pile on with the street cred that he thinks he has because of the 24-hour sun observation, and it's just a bunch of hot air.
Originate in 3 different continents, and then the ski planes all meet up after very short flights at the South Pole. This is once again physically impossible on a flat Earth, and is exactly what would happen on a globe. In closing, I would like to read a verse from the Gospel of John. Jesus says this in chapter 3, verse 12. If I have told you earthly things and you do not believe, how will you believe if I tell you heavenly things? This reminds me so much of this conversation and debate.
Yeah, see, the difference is how you're cherry plucking this verse to show your level of exegesis, which is horrible, is that you have not shown me earthly things. Your whole premise for TFE was that you are looking at heavenly things and then trying to discern the earth based on the movements of heavenly things. You have not told me earthly things. You're not in this position, Will. I'm not in this position or in this context of John 3:12. This is just a cherry-plucked abuse of scripture in order to try to demonize your opponent.
Sean has now been told and shown earthly things, facts about our present reality and the globe we live on. If he cannot accept this, then that is only a hindrance to a proper understanding of scripture and heavenly things. I predict that Sean will try to avoid discussing the observations and experiments we did as part of TFE.
I don't avoid it. I actually bring it up in my opening. I bring it up in my rebuttals. I bring it up in my questions to him. I've brought it up previously on my channel. I interviewed Joseph Hanvey to talk directly about it. No matter what I do or say, the false, dishonest claim is I haven't done it or I haven't said it. Or, it's just, this is dishonesty. It's just dishonesty. It's shameful behavior for someone that considers himself to be a Christian and a pastor, for him to continually not steel man me and not properly represent what I actually have said. So this is just, it's called rhetoric. It's called debate rhetoric. And these tactics are used in debates, but they're not used by people who are there as representatives of integrity and truth and people that are there in good faith. That's where Duffy is not representing Christ in this regard.
And instead focus on what the Bible says. But if someone cannot understand our present world, the one we live in and the one we can go measure and test and explore, then their opinion on what the Bible says is not going to be that respectable, at least not to me. If you cannot understand earthly things, how are you going to understand spiritual things?
I wonder if Duffy understands gravity. I wonder if he understands the electrostatic gradient. I wonder if he understands the concepts of buoyancy. And I wonder if he understands what scientists have measured the air pressure of Earth to be in comparison to the lack of pressure that is supposedly in space. I wonder if he understands the scriptures when it says that the Earth in the depths of it cannot be searched out or measured. And if it could be, if man could search them out and measure them, then God would abandon Israel, his covenant with Israel. I wonder if he understands if the heights of the heaven could be measured, then God would abandon his covenant with Israel. This is what Yahweh himself says in Jeremiah. Speaking about both earthly and heavenly things, if we're looking at John 3:12 in that context, speaking about both earthly and heavenly things, the creator of earth and heaven said, neither can be measured by man. And if it could be measured by man, he will abandon his covenant promise with Yahweh, with Israel. But yet, the world, the one that Duffy is appealing to, the opinion, the consensus, the quote unquote science of the world that Duffy's appealing to, says that they have measured the heavens and the earth. They know what's at the center of the earth, even though they've never been there. They know the radius value of a sphere, even though that's not what the Bible describes. They think they have measured it, and they claim that they know how far things are by light years away, that they claim they've measured the heavens. I mean, the irony here is incredibly thick.
Message Bible translates John 3:12 very bluntly.
By the way, guys, never use the Message Bible. Just FYI, it's not intended to. It's just a bad translation. It's not intended to be an accurate word for word translation, or it's literally just a retelling narrative. It's not intended to be a valid translation of the Bible.
If I tell you things that are plain as the hand before your face, and you don't believe me, what use is there in telling you of things you can't see, the things of God?
Okay, well, Duffy, your whole premise of TFE is that you can see the sun, and that's your observation that you're skating on here. You can't see the depths of the earth, but yet you claim you know the measurement of the earth. You can't see it. You can't actually measure it. You can't. So again, it's a bunch of bolstering. It's a lot of bravado. That's his opening statement. I actually have to go for now. This will be part 1, but I'm excited to do part 2 soon. And then we'll be able to review our cross exam, and I'll go through my opening statement as well. And in fact, I may just do part 2, may just be my opening statements, and we'll see how much we can get through. I just know that I packed a lot into my opening statements, and there's a lot of things I wanted to say for each point that I brought forward, but I had to minimize it due to time. So,
and this is where we are at with this conversation. Sean may try to wiggle out of these clear facts about our world by saying he does not have a flat earth map or a working flat earth model. But in the 21st century, that is no longer a valid excuse. There is no shortage of maps today, and there are 100,000 daily commercial flights available to the public, all of which make perfect sense on the globe. And there are no flat earth.
What about all those flights that happened with emergency landings and they ended up landing in places that they didn't think they were nearby? Like the people that were flying back from New Zealand or from Australia to Los Angeles, and they had to make an emergency landing. Instead of stopping over Hawaii, which would have made sense on the globe model, they stopped in Alaska, which makes sense on a top-down biblical cosmological model. So he's ignoring all that, right? Again, he's not in good faith here. He's not steelmanning the opponent's arguments. It's a lot of bravado and rhetoric.
Cartographers or flat earth pilots. Sean, I'm going to take a pretty firm stance on this. If you are unable to produce a working flat earth map that can account for these 6 things I just went through, then this debate is simply over. I will still engage with you on a biblical conversation and show you that the Hebrew word rakia does not mean a hemispherical dome. But please realize that without a flat earth map, you've lost this debate. We have way too many data points, and all of these data points coexist simultaneously. And therefore, any map must be able to account for all of them. And the globe does. You may have been able to appeal to a lack of accurate maps or a lack of accurate data hundreds of years ago, but you can't do that in 2025. So, Sean, the ball is in your court. No pun intended.
Just bad. Just bad. Bad faith, bad logic, bad exegesis of scripture, bad actor. We'll get into the rest of the debate, guys. I got to go right now, though. I appreciate you guys being here, and like, share, and subscribe if you like this. And we'll be doing more of this pretty soon. Thank you. See you next time. Go check out Brave Tees.
Got 2 flavors. I think today I'm gonna go with this one. Here it's just not gonna stop, so whatever. This one helps with restlessness, nervous disorders, asthma, digestion, high blood pressure, insomnia, pain, GI discomfort. I'm so excited. It is for inflammation, anxiety, high blood sugar. Actually, I'm gonna do this one instead. Anxiety. They were also super kind enough to send me 100% raw Cheyenne honey. Okay. Disco bottle tea. Let's let her simmer. So cute, because this one it says our tree of life blend, and this one's our relaxing Sabbath rest blend. It's all godly. Prayer for healing for me, please, in my ear, and this bird to please be quiet. They were not playing. No joke, this is actually really good. I'm shocked, and I don't even like tea. This is literally blessed by Yeshua. Can I get an amen, sweet Pete? I pray.